who lived in the house, and we didn't know that we were poor. We felt just fine about it, but we really were pretty poor at that time. But everyone, and there were uncles and aunts, a million people living in that house. Everybody happy to be alive. Everyone slowly working their way up to get out. And then disaster hit again. At the end of the war, if you remember, in the movies, they showed pictures of the concentration camps and of all of the dead bodies. And then my parents said, then they knew. And they'd been working with the Red Cross trying to find out where their relatives are. And then they knew at this point, there is no hope. And then at that point, everyone and the family just gave up all hope of seeing the relatives and friends again. My mother's my mother had 6 children in the family. The oldest, Dory, he was married, had 2 children, and he was a hero in the First World War. He fought on the Russian front, and he was taken a prisoner, but he managed to get back. But he did a good job and got an Iron Cross, which was a big deal for the Nazis. And that served to kill him, because he thought that they'll never come after someone that has an Iron Cross. But they couldn't kill us. They killed him and his wife and his kids. My mother lost a sister and both her parents, and about half the family. My father's side also, about half the family was taken. But we were the lucky ones that managed to stay alive and come to the United States. After we were poor, we then, like everyone else coming to the United States, if you work hard, if you study hard, you advance. The opportunity was tremendous. It is the land of opportunity. My brother and sister were born, and we did well. I got a doctorate from MIT. I served in the Air Force as an officer. My brother got a doctorate. My sister got a master's. My father built up a business. He built up a business, a factory with 200 employees. So things went well. And we then moved to Forest Hills. We were living in Brooklyn in various places, starting out really bad and getting progressively better. In one of them, the last place we lived in Brooklyn, was kind of curious. It was an Italian family, the Dorigos. We had the middle floor, and the Dorigos had the first floor and the third floor, where their bedrooms were. In order for them to get to their bedrooms, they had to walk through our apartment. But Jews and Italians always got along very, very well, so that was nice. And then we moved to Forest Hills, and in 1949, my father actually learned how to drive and got a car. And things were really going quite well. But I should tell you about some of the anti-Semitism that we encountered in the United States. One in Forest Hills. We lived in a beautiful house. Diagonally across the street was a tennis court. Forest Hills was famous for tennis. There's the West Side Tennis Club, where they have the international thing. So this was the East Side Tennis Club, much smaller, and within spitting distance of the house. You could see it from the house. Jews were not permitted to play on that. The word was restricted. And there were a lot of hotels in Florida, for example, that were restricted. And everybody knew what restricted meant. But I was telling my black friends that Jews handled the situation a little differently than you guys. Some Jewish guys that played tennis simply bought the club. And that took care of the problem. I told Bill Walker, I said, Bill, that's the best way to solve any problem. Money always talks to things. Of course, you have to have first earned it.
Work hard.
Then when I was in the Air Force, I hate to say it, but there was plenty of anti-Semitism in the United States Air Force, which I thought was a kind of a disgrace. And then I had very few incidents of anti-Semitism. There's just one that I have to mention. I was walking with my mother in Midtown Manhattan, and a little old lady came over. My mother always spoke German to me. And a little old lady came over and assumed that it was Yiddish that she was talking to me. So she started hitting me on the head with her handbag. It didn't hurt her again, and it was just the strangest thing. And she's saying, Jew, 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 Jew. And so we just walked away. And I asked my mother, I said, what is that? And she says, what's the matter? You never saw an anti-Semite before?
Wow.
I never could understand that one. Anyway, we went back to Vienna a few times. And one time I was in Vienna with my father, and we're now walking through the park, and the situation was a lot different than it was in the 1930s. So I asked my father, don't you feel bad walking around the people that tried to do you in so many years ago? And he said he doesn't feel bad about them at all, because he felt that the distribution of people is the same everywhere. All depends, as I said before, who's in power. You get the wrong team in power, and then the crazies come out of the woodwork, and that's what happened there. And so that was my father's thought about them. And my mother's thought about what to do was a little different. My mother, education was a very big thing in the family. And my mother was really a proponent of that. And she said, you gotta learn things and put things in your head, because everything you own could be taken from you, which of course happens, but they can't take what's in your head. And so once I got in a midterm grade, I got a D in French. That was a family crisis. I had a French tutor that came to the house after that. Anyway, other times that we went to Vienna, an organization developed called the Jewish Welcome Service, run by Gentiles in Vienna. The Jewish Welcome Service of Vienna. I don't think Vienna is particularly anti-Semitic now, but Austria, I don't think I could say the same for, but we were treated very well. My wife, my dear wife Rosie, who passed away last year, and one of my daughters, and a granddaughter, and a boyfriend. 5 of us went, and it was really interesting. They wined and dined us and gave us a lot of information. One piece of information was the Nazis left such meticulous records that if you wanted to know when any member of your family was taken from their apartment, what train they were put on, what car on the train, and what date they were executed, you could get all that information. I passed on that. I didn't want to get that. I thought that's remarkable. That people that had that ability to do things would be so completely deranged. Just amazing. But on the same trip for the Jewish Welcome Service of Vienna, we met people from all over the world that were in a similar situation as I am. If you were born in Vienna and you were kicked out or you escaped, then you got this free trip to Vienna. First class, couldn't have been better. The best thing of all, you got to talk to people from all over the world, and you got their stories of how did their family escape, and how did they survive. And a couple of things that I remember that were, I think, critical. One guy said his family moved to Italy, and Italy had a secret program for Jews. If you spoke to the right people, they would put you in a little village, and they would give you and this is in the late 30s, and they would give you just enough money to live on, and they said, just keep your mouth shut. And they survived. And so the Italians, really in many cases, were very good to the Jews. Then you had the farmers. The farmers hid a lot of Jews because they were hiding places in barns, and some people said that their families were just hidden in barns, and every now and then the Gestapo would come riding by, and then the farmers made sure everybody was hidden in the appropriate places, and they saved their lives. But I think most important of all were the priests. The priests, the Pope at that time, I think it was Pope Pius XII or something like that. There are questions of whether he was playing footsie with the Nazis or not. No, I never heard that really resolved, but his behavior was very questionable. The priests, on the other hand, from the stories that I heard from others, they were unbelievably good to the Jews, and a lot of the priests that were helping Jews ended up in the concentration camps and killed. So for some reason, that is generally not known. But when you hear firsthand accounts of that, then it's interesting to hear. And then there was another organization, I didn't hear about this then, but I heard about this another time, that the White Rose Society. Did you ever hear of that?
Yes.
And they decided that they're going to help stop the racial acts against Jews. And I think they were all killed. The Nazis they didn't take any votes or anything like that. They just knocked them off. On this excursion to Vienna, the Jewish Welcome Service, the last night, everybody was taken to a party, and you get drinks and we were singing. Almost all of the people that returned, even though they left the country maybe at a year and a half old, as I did, some a little older, everybody could speak German. And they all spoke German with a Viennese accent, not an Austrian accent.